Have you ever tried to prove your point in an argument, only to watch the other person become even more stubborn? You explain your logic, you bring facts, you show clear evidence, and yet the conversation only gets worse. Voices get louder. Frustration grows. And instead of solving the problem, both sides walk away angry. The strange truth is this: winning arguments often destroys negotiations. This is exactly what negotiation researchers discovered while studying thousands of real negotiations. And one of the most powerful lessons they teach is surprisingly simple. If you want to win negotiations, stop trying to win arguments. Why arguments almost always fail. Most people believe negotiations are about proving they are right, so when disagreement appears, they push harder. They repeat their point again and again. They add more explanations. More exemplos, more arguments. But psychology shows something very important. The moment people feel attacked, their brain switches into defense mode. Instead of thinking about the problem, they start protecting their identity. It no longer feels like a discussion, it feels like a battle. And when the brain enters defensive mode, something critical happens. Listening stops, curiosity disappears. And the only goal becomes one thing: not losing the argument. This is why many conversations spiral out of control so quickly. Each side believes they are simply defending logic. But emotionally, the brain interprets the situation as a threat. And when people feel threatened, they rarely change their mind. The main mistake in negotiations. One of the biggest mistakes people make in negotiations is confusing positions with problems. A position is what someone says they want, but the problem behind that position is often very different. For example, imagine two coworkers arguing about a deadline. One person insists the project must be finished this week. The other says it is impossible. At first it looks like a simple disagreement. But if they argue about the deadline itself, the conversation quickly becomes a fight. Each side tries to prove the other wrong. But the real issue might be something deeper. Maybe one person is worried about pressure from management. Maybe the other is worried about quality. Maybe the team simply doesn't have enough resources. When negotiators focus only on positions, they miss the real problem. And without understanding the real problem, it's almost impossible to find a solution. Principle: separate people from the problem. One of the most important ideas taught in negotiation training is this: separate the people from the problem. Instead of attacking the person, focus on the issue itself. This simple shift changes the entire emotional tone of the conversation. Imagine the difference between these two sentences: "You're wrong," and "Let's figure out what the real issue is." The first sentence creates conflict. The second invites collaboration. When people feel respected, they become more open to discussion. Their brain stays calm. And calm minds make better decisions. This is why experienced negotiators rarely raise their voices. They know that emotional escalation destroys productive thinking, but calm communication creates space for solutions. The goal is not to defeat the other person. The goal is to solve the problem together. The power of asking the right questions. The fastest way to shift a conflict into a negotiation is by asking questions. Questions change the direction of the conversation. Instead of defending positions, people begin exploring possibilities. A skilled negotiator often asks simple questions like, "What concerns you the most about this situation?" Or, "What would make this solution work for you?" These questions do something powerful. They show respect. They reduce tension, and they reveal hidden information. Often the biggest breakthroughs in negotiations happen not because someone made a brilliant argument, but because someone asked the right question. Questions turn opponents into collaborators. And once both sides begin looking for solutions together, the dynamic of the entire conversation changes. Why calmness gives an advantage. Emotion spreads quickly in conversations. If one person becomes angry, the other usually responds with anger. But the opposite is also true. Calm behavior can lower emotional tension. Professional negotiators understand this very well. They control their tone. They slow down the conversation. They avoid reacting impulsively. And this creates an invisible advantage. When the room becomes calmer, people think more clearly. When people think more clearly, better solutions appear. This is why negotiation is not just about strategy. It's about emotional control. The person who manages emotions best often guides the entire conversation. So the next time a conversation begins turning into an argument, pause for a moment. Instead of trying to prove you are right, try something different. Separate the people from the problem. Ask questions, stay calm, and focus on solving the issue together. Because the true goal of negotiation is not winning the argument. It's finding a solution both sides can accept. And sometimes, the smartest move in any negotiation is simply to stop arguing